Do you ever get the feeling that this isn't a new year, but just the old one in a different disguise? Dates don't create change. Time doesn't move forward just because a number resets. The same challenges, the same disappointments, the same internal battles you thought you had already won, now returning. The feeling is like you're running in place, stuck on a treadmill where the scenery might change. But your journey never moves forward. There's a harsh truth: most of us don't live 10 different years. We live the same year 10 times over. This isn't bad luck, nor is it your imagination. This is a real psychological phenomenon called the psychological time loop. In short, this is when our unconscious mind, in a misguided attempt to keep us safe within the familiar, accidentally causes us to replay old scripts. It's why you can change jobs, move to a new city, or start a new relationship, yet somehow, you still face the same core problems, the same insecurities, and the same familiar conflicts. In this video, we won't just scratch the surface. We'll explore this from two powerful angles: science and spirit. We'll look at the neuroscience of how you can literally rewire your brain, breaking old neural pathways and building new ones with your conscious choices. We'll also look at this through the lens of ancient wisdom. Seeing these loops as karmic results tests your soul sets for itself, repeating until you finally learn the lesson. We'll expose the invisible scripts running your life and map out a clear action plan so you can become the writer of your own story, instead of just an actor reciting old lines. If you're ready to break the cycle and truly begin a new year, let's explore together. To understand why we get stuck, we must start with a fundamental truth about our brains. They weren't primarily designed for our happiness. They were designed for our survival. This is the master program, one that overrides almost everything else. From a neuroscience perspective, this originates in our primitive brain structures. The amygdala, a small, almond-shaped cluster of cells in the brain, acts as the body's smoke detector, constantly scanning the environment for potential threats. Its main function is to trigger the fight or flight response, pumping stress hormones into the body to prepare us for danger. And from a survival perspective, the most important variable isn't joy or contentment, it's predictability. Your nervous system is constantly scanning the environment, both internal and external, for cues of safety and danger. It's a process that happens far below the level of conscious thought, with the primary goal of keeping you safe by using past experiences to predict the immediate future. This creates what behavioral economists call the status quo bias. Our brains have a strong, built-in preference for keeping things the same, because from this ancient perspective, change inherently feels risky. Think of our ancestors on the savannah. Sticking with the berries you know won't poison you was a safe, predictable strategy. Trying a new, unfamiliar berry introduced a risk. Your brain today operates on that same primitive logic. It equates familiar with safe and unfamiliar with dangerous. This brings us to the crucial and deeply counterintuitive point: your brain does not differentiate between familiar comfort and familiar pain. It only differentiates between the familiar and the unfamiliar. This is the very essence of the psychological loop. Let's break that down. Imagine your survival brain is like an old security guard who has worked the same post for 40 years. His only job is to ensure that nothing unexpected happens on his watch. He isn't concerned with whether the employees are happy or miserable. He is only concerned with whether they are following their predictable routines. A familiar, yet toxic, relationship is like an employee he recognizes. He sees this person, knows their patterns, and even though they might cause a commotion every night, the commotion itself is predictable. The guard logs it and feels secure because he knew it was coming. An exciting, healthy new person, however, is a complete unknown. They don't have a file. They aren't in the system. The old guard sounds every alarm, flagging them as a potential threat simply because their behavior is new and unpredictable. He would rather deal with a familiar troublemaker than an unknown visitor, even if that visitor brings gifts. Your brain operates on this same logic. It prefers the predictable pain of a dead-end job where you know your boss will undervalue you, and you know how that resentment will feel over the terrifying uncertainty of starting a new career, even if that career holds the potential for deep fulfillment. The old job, however painful, is a known quantity. The new one is an unknown variable. The loop is not a punishment. It's a program, an outdated security protocol that mistakes familiarity for safety. You are not repeating the same year because you are lazy or lack ambition. You are repeating it because your amygdala is running a survival program that is designed to keep you alive, not to help you thrive. And the first step to rewriting that program is to see it for what it is, an excellent but outdated survival mechanism. If the nervous system's preference for the familiar is the engine of the time loop, the script is written by our past. In cognitive science, this can be explained through schema theory. Schemas are mental frameworks or patterns of thought that we build based on past experiences. They act as shortcuts that help the brain quickly interpret the massive amount of information from the environment. When a past experience is emotionally charged, especially a painful one, it creates a powerful schema. The unconscious mind will then tend to recreate similar circumstances, a phenomenon called repetition compulsion, in the secret hope of finally fixing or mastering the outcome. Think of a woman named Sarah, living in New York, who grew up feeling emotionally abandoned. She might find herself repeatedly drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable or distant. It's not because she enjoys being hurt. It's because her original schema for a relationship was shaped by absence, and her unconscious mind is still trying to solve that problem. This time, I'll make them stay. This time, I'll win the love I never received. But because she is operating from the same internal script, she ends up casting the same characters and replaying the same scene, leading to the same painful conclusion. Or consider Michael, a talented engineer in Silicon Valley. He is brilliant, but always struggles to sustain success. Whenever he starts a new project, the first few months are fantastic. But as soon as a major opportunity arises that could take him to the next level, he begins to procrastinate. He works until the last minute, delivers a product that is merely average, and reinforces the core belief he formed in childhood. I'm not good enough. He believes he is reacting to the pressure of the job. But in reality, he is recreating a reality that matches his cognitive schema. These patterns are not just in our heads, they live in our bodies. When a present situation even vaguely resembles a past one, old emotions are triggered. Your body tenses up before a difficult conversation, preparing for a conflict that happened 20 years ago. You think you are reacting to an email, but your body is reacting to a memory. The loop isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. The year keeps changing. The city changes. The people change. But when the internal script stays the same, life reorganizes itself to match it. So how do we understand the deeper meaning of these loops? Interestingly, both modern science and ancient spiritual wisdom converge on an answer, though they use different languages. From a neuroscience perspective, the answer lies in the powerful concept of neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to physically reorganize itself based on your thoughts and actions. The fundamental principle is neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you repeat a thought or action, you are making the neural pathway associated with it stronger and more efficient. Imagine your old loops as multi-lane superhighways in your brain. Your thoughts and reactions travel on them almost instantly and automatically. They are very efficient, but rigid. When you consciously choose a different response, no matter how small, it's like leaving the highway and starting to hack a small trail in the jungle with a machete. At first, it's difficult and requires a lot of effort, but every time you repeat that new choice, you're walking that trail again, making it wider, flatter, and easier to travel. This is not a metaphor. This is what is happening biologically. You are literally building new connections, reshaping the physical structure of your brain with your conscious choices. Physics gives us a parallel insight. Systems don't change because they want to. They change when internal conditions reach a threshold. Water doesn't boil through effort. It boils when energy accumulates enough to reorganize its state. Consciousness works the same way. Amazingly, spiritual and mystical traditions have long spoken of this same process in their own language. The foundation of this perspective is the law of karma, a universal principle of cause and effect. Karma is not punishment or a predetermined fate. Rather, it is the natural consequence of our past actions, words, and even intentions. It is unresolved energy, unhealed emotions, and unlearned lessons. From this viewpoint, a life loop is a karmic result that is ripening. It is the universe, or our own deeper self, creating a situation similar to the past, not to punish, but to give us a new opportunity. An opportunity to do what? To finally feel the pain we once ran from. To make a choice based on awareness, instead of reacting out of old habit. To practice the forgiveness, compassion, or courage we couldn't before. Each loop is a test the soul sets for itself. And that test will repeat until we learn the lesson and graduate. Whichever lens you approach it, from scientific or spiritual, the core message remains the same. The loop is not a prison, but an invitation. An invitation to finally feel what you've been avoiding. To make a conscious choice instead of an automatic reaction. Because there seems to be a universal principle what we refuse to face. We are forced to relive. The way out always begins with awareness and a new choice. So how do we break this cycle? The process doesn't begin with a grand, dramatic act. It begins with awareness and intentional interruption. First, awareness. You cannot change a pattern you cannot see. The goal is to shift from being a character in the story to becoming the observer of the story. Start by identifying the loop. What is the recurring theme? Be specific. Map it out. How does it start? What are the warning signs you often ignore? What is the recurring conflict? From the spiritual perspective we mentioned. This is the first step to graduating from your karmic lesson. Instead of being swept away by emotion and reacting out of old habit, you stand back and ask, what is the lesson here? What is the universe trying to teach me through this repeating situation? Perhaps the lesson is about setting boundaries, practicing forgiveness, or trusting in your own worth. Asking this question transforms the loop from a punishment into a classroom. Next, practice observing your triggers and your reactions. When you feel that disproportionate surge of emotion, that is your cue. Instead of reacting immediately, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I feeling in my body right now? Is this feeling familiar? This practice creates a small gap between the trigger and the automatic response. In that space lies your freedom. The goal is not to force a new future. It's to stop feeding the old one. Every interruption withdraws energy from the loop that's been running your life. Once you can see the loop, the next step is to interrupt it. This is where you shift from observer to active participant. A pattern interrupt is a small, conscious choice that deviates from the script. For example, with a people-pleasing loop, instead of saying yes immediately, you pause and say, "Let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you." You have just interrupted the pattern of immediate compliance. With a loop of avoidance by scrolling on your phone, before you reach for the device, you decide, "I will walk around the block for 5 minutes first." You are breaking the reflexive link between stress and numbness. With a loop of self-criticism, when you hear the judgmental voice, you introduce a new one: "I made a mistake." Everyone makes mistakes. You are actively interrupting the pattern of shame. The key thing to emphasize here is these interruptions are not one-time magic tricks. They are a practice. Awareness shows you the door, but it is conscious, repeated behavior that is the key to actually walking through it. You cannot just think your way out of a loop that has been reinforced by years of behavior. You have to act your way out. Each time you choose to say, "Let me check," instead of an immediate yes, you aren't just delaying a decision, you are doing a rep for your self-sovereignty muscle. Each small interruption is a practice, strengthening the new neural pathway we talked about earlier. Every time you successfully execute an interruption, you send a powerful new signal to your brain. You are teaching your nervous system, through direct experience, that another way is both possible and survivable. As we've seen, that feeling of being stuck in a time loop, of living the same year over and over, is not a sign that you are broken. It's a signal from deep within. And the message is clear: it's time to grow. We've explored how this pattern is not a curse, but a program, an outdated survival mechanism run by a part of your brain that prioritizes predictability over your happiness. Your amygdala prefers the familiar pain of a bad job over the uncertainty of a new career, simply because the pain is a known quantity. The loop is a security protocol, not a life sentence. We've also seen how the script for this repeating play is written by our past. Through mental frameworks called schemas, our unconscious mind tries to fix old wounds by recreating the original circumstances, trapping us in a repetition compulsion. Whether it's choosing the wrong partners or sabotaging our own success, we are often just actors reciting old lines, hoping for a different ending. But here is where the power returns to you. We discovered that both modern neuroscience and ancient wisdom offer the same key conscious choice. Science calls it neuroplasticity, the ability to physically rewire your brain. Each time you choose a new action, you carve a new neural path, weakening the old superhighway of automatic reaction. Spiritual traditions call it karma, an opportunity, not a punishment, to face an old lesson and finally graduate. The loop, seen through either lens, is not a prison wall, but an invitation to wake up. The path out is a threefold practice. First, awareness. You learn to step back and observe the pattern without judgment, seeing it for the script it is. Second, interruption. You introduce a small, conscious action that breaks the automatic sequence, a pattern interrupt. You say, "Let me get back to you," instead of an automatic yes. You pause and breathe instead of reacting with anger. And third, repetition. You practice these interruptions until the new path becomes easier to travel than the old one. This is how repetitive change blossoms into true transformation. You begin to write a new story so compelling that you no longer want to return to the old path. You do this by consciously installing a new belief and actively gathering evidence to support it. If the old belief is, "I am incompetent," write down one piece of evidence each day that contradicts it. By doing this, you are not just breaking a loop, you are building a new identity. The power to break the cycle has been inside you all along. You don't need a new environment to change your life. You need a new internal standard for how you respond to the familiar. When that changes, the timeline follows. The first step is always the hardest and the most meaningful. I invite you to take one small action today. In the comments below, share one small, repeating pattern you've noticed in your life. And one tiny pattern interrupt you could try this week. By sharing, we not only hold ourselves accountable, but we also create a community of people who are learning to break their own loops together. If this journey resonates with you, consider subscribing, because this is just the beginning. Together, we will continue to explore the tools needed to rewrite our stories. Thank you for watching.